We're all familiar with how bad Storm can be in live action. Miscast, poorly written, no arc or backstory, lackluster powers. But what about a good live action Storm? These are the 5 things that the next live action Storm must get right in order to win over the fans. Things the Storm fandom has been begging for, demanding for over 20 years. Starting in no particular order, number 1. Storm's heritage. Storm is one of the biggest African American characters in existence, and I mean that in a literal sense. Her father is Black American. Her mother is Kenyan, but we've never had that really depicted or even looked into in the movies before, which is tragic and criminal all at the same time when you realize how crazy diverse Storm's family is. Everything from royalty to warlords, witches to sorceresses. Not only that, but her cultural relevance spans 2 entire continents, with her being raised primarily in Africa, but then spending most of her adult life in the United States. But aside from the 2 seconds she spent running around the streets of Cairo as a thief in X-Men Apocalypse, we don't have any actual connection to this at all. In fact, they don't really go into any of Storm's backstory aside from this one little scene in any of the movies. So the next time she appears in live action, this is a must do. They don't necessarily have to get everything exactly the way they did it in the comics, but they have to have something. Storm is a family person. Her heritage matters to her, and just completely leaving that off the table is criminal. Do not do that again. You have to include her heritage. You know what else must be a part of her character? Thing number 2, a diverse power set in both the macro and the micro. My very first video on this channel was talking about how big and expansive Storm's power set is and how she's tragically never been appropriately adapted outside of the comics in terms of what her powers can do. And I'm not just talking about big lightning storms either, because remember, Storm said it best herself. Being an Omega level mutant is all about versatility. So yes, she could control interdimensional storms. She could summon the power of an entire galaxy's core into herself. She could do all those things. Or she could give a group of enemies heat strokes. She could keep a person from flatlining by manipulating the electricity in their heart to keep it pumping. Or she could make people deaf by making their eardrums explode with internal air pressure. Storm's power set has always been one that has infinite applications. And I am so tired of seeing her being relegated to support lightning bolt, support tornado, as I'm sure you are too. So the next time she comes on this screen, I don't care if it's a big thing quote unquote or a little thing quote unquote. I just need them powers to be on point. I need them joints to be popping. I need it to be pss, pss, pss everywhere. Thing number 3 that they have to nail in the next Storm live action depiction, her commanding presence. Storm is a natural born leader. Even at a young age, we see her taking charge amongst her friends as part of the street urchin thief gang. People naturally defer to her. We only saw a smidgen of that in X3. X3, for God's sake. It's like one of the worst X-Men movies we've ever gotten, and yet it's the only one where Storm actually is assertive and takes charge.
What the hell was that?
Danger room session.
You know what I mean.
I'll lighten up, Storm.
Look, you can't just change the rules when you feel like it. I'm trying to teach him something.
No, I taught him something.
It was a defensive exercise.
Yeah, best defense is a good offense. Or is it the other way around?
This isn't a game, Logan.
You sure fooled me.
But she shouldn't just be take charge in a I'm the boss bitch, you gonna do what I say cause I said so type of way. It should be like a stern but loving and caring mother. Someone who's gonna guide you. Someone who will correct you when necessary, but she'll also give you tons of affection and affirmation. It should be a loving leader. That's what Storm is. I mean, the whole goddess thing isn't just because of the phenomenal cosmic powers. She also just gives off goddess vibes. She's a natural nurturer, and that lends itself very well to being a leader. And how do you have one of the most prolific X-Men of all time, who's led multiple iterations of the X-Men team, constantly just taking a back seat and doing what other people say? Not saying that she can only be a leader, because at the end of the day, she's a team player and she can follow as well as lead, but that presence should always be there. She should always at least be capable of taking charge of any situation, even if she doesn't always do so. And since I brought up the whole goddess thing, we might as well touch on that too. Thing number 4, her divine/mystic elements. Now I know in my last live action Storm video, I said I'm not looking forward to Storm being in the MCU. I don't trust the Marvel Cinematic Universe to adapt her in a way that we will enjoy. But I will acknowledge that now is the perfect time when she does come in to touch on some of those other elements that have never been really addressed. The fact that she has mysticism flowing through her bloodline, going back centuries upon millennia, upon eons, upon epochs. I'm just saying, if at some point she invoked Ashake, I'd be here for it. If she invoked Bast or Sekhmet, I'd be here for it. Call upon them old musty ancestors and gods and goddesses, cause you know Storm is always running tight with them, okay? Matter of fact, go on and give her the Godhead. Give her the power of Godhead at some point. Doesn't have to be there from jump. I would love to see it be something that's developed, but if at some point people's faith in her empowered her, I think that'd be pretty dope. That's something we legit have never seen outside the comics before. It is a tragically under-examined part of who Storm is, and just as I need the mutant powers to be on point, I want the mystical and divine stuff to be on point. You can't just leave that off the table. And last, but certainly not least, you knew I was gonna mention this. She must look the part! Now, what I'm about to say is not a slight against Halle Berry or Alexandra Shipp. I completely understand why Halle Berry was cast to play Storm back in the day. The first X-Men movie came out in the year 2000, and in terms of young, or at least young-ish black actresses whose names had that box office star power, you really weren't gonna get bigger than Halle Berry. The closest other person was Angela Bassett, who several people have already listed as their Storm. And if the movie had came out in the early or even mid-90s, Angela Bassett would have made a great Storm. But Angela Bassett is several years older than Halle Berry. I'll put their actual age difference on screen right here just so you can see for yourself. So unless we were talking about an older Storm, it wouldn't have worked. Let's also remember that Halle Berry was not only younger than Angela Bassett, but she is more, let's say, conventionally attractive. Now, I personally think that that's more of a point for Angela Bassett because Storm has a very distinct look. Her face isn't very soft. In most versions of her as she's drawn, her face kind of has a strong appearance. Not strong as in masculine, but more like regal. Queen shit. Halle Berry has a very soft, delicate face. Gives her obvious points for superficial Hollywood reasons, but makes her look nothing like Storm. When I look at Storm, I should think, I don't know if I should kiss her, bow down and worship her, or run for my life. She should give you that look, or at the very least, someone who can emote like that. Cause let's be real here, for as beautiful as Halle Berry is, Halle Berry wasn't exactly the strongest acting choice. Now in terms of her skin color, I don't need her to necessarily be as dark as humanly possible, but she should not pass the paper bag test. She should at least be a good deep medium brown. Anywhere from deep medium brown to dark is what I'm going for with my Storm, okay? And I want her face to be one that is commanding but also feminine. Someone who can take charge and kick ass, but also is gonna look damn good in a nightgown. So you might be asking, damn Animane, if you've thought this deeply about what Storm should look like, who do you think should actually play her? I'm glad you asked, and I'll be going over that in my next video addressing Storm in live action. We will be going over exactly who my top pick would be, as well as a few other honorable mentions, runner-ups, and people who I think would do a damn good job. But for right now, here's the next video I think you should check out so you can get more Storm dopeness in your life. And until next time, keep simping.